Good evening, my name is Kirk Bauermeister and I'm an Executive Director here at Newport-Mesa Unified School District. We want to thank you for being here tonight to participate in our creation of the Newport-Mesa Unified School District Human Task Force. I'd like to start off by introducing some of our distinguished guests, starting with our school board members and starting with President Charlene Matoye. Vice President Martha Fleur. Member Ashley Anderson. I saw her signing in. I believe she's here. Ashley. Member Vicki Snell. And Member Karen Yelsey. From Newport Beach, we have Jeff Herdman. And being well represented by the City of Costa Mesa, we have our Mayor Foley. Council Member Arliss Reynolds, NMUSD grad. City of Costa Mesa Councilman Manny Chavez, Newport-Mesa grad. From the ADL, we have Reverend Levy. And from Assemblywoman Cody Petrie Norris's office, we had Field Rep Nathan Searcy. Newport-Mesa grad. Next, I'd like to introduce Allison, Dawn, and Julie from the Orange County Human Relations Council. The Orange County Human Relations Council are trained mediators who specialize in building communities to foster respect, resolve conflicts, and pursue equality. A couple of weeks ago, in response to a student incident that happened off campus and the reaction that ensued, the district sponsored 2 community forums to address community concerns. After the last forum, the board directed Dr. Navarro to create a human relations task force to create a greater level of cultural understanding and acceptance. We know that this incident that happened is not isolated to Newport-Mesa Unified School District, to our state, or even our country. It is a worldwide issue. The Orange County Human Relations team will be working with us in building campus environments where students, staff, and parents feel safe, welcome, and respected. This is the work that they do. The task force will also be working with other community partners, including the Anti-Defamation League, the Newport-Mesa Irvine Interfaith Council, Trellis, the cities of Costa Mesa and Newport Beach, just to name a few. The team and our community partners will be helping us create a task force which will look at what we are currently doing, ranging from curriculum to clubs, and possibly how to do a better job, best practices. The task force will also be looking at things that we can do immediately. Also at looking at long-term training that we'll need to implement to create more safe and respectful schools. Tonight, the team will provide activities for you that will enable you to have a voice in the creation of this task force and the important work that it will do. This is a highly collaborative and organic process. The team will take the information gleaned from tonight about the issues and concerns of our community to create next steps for the task force. In addition to the task force, which will meet twice a month, the OC Human Relations team will be leading monthly community workshops to address our issues and concerns. After the meeting tonight, and armed with your information and direction, the team will create a job description of what the expectations will be for a task force member, so that prospective members will have an understanding of what is expected of them on the task force. An application will be available on the district website on Monday, April 1st. And the application is just an acknowledgement that you've read and understand what those expectations are to be a task force member. All that apply will be accepted. If someone shows up at the next meeting without filling out an application, they won't be excluded from the task force. We would just give them the job description to read, again, so they understand what the expectations are of being on the task force. People who are not here tonight will have the ability to fill out an application online and be on the task force as well. The task force will be making recommendations to the school board in June, recommending action steps to implement to address student, staff, and parent needs. The task force will continue to meet in the fall to monitor the progress of the steps implemented. As for tonight's meeting, the Orange County Human Relations team will begin their work by helping us to understand what the task force is and what it isn't. They will then have a session to collect information from you, and there will be several different prompts for you to answer to give us your thoughts. Then the team will use this information to set the agenda for the next task force meeting to begin the work of addressing these concerns that come out tonight. Now at this time, I'd like to turn the meeting over to Allison and her team. I'll be back at the conclusion tonight to talk about next steps for the task force and the community workshops. Allison?
Good evening. Thanks for being here. We really appreciate this continued interest that you all have in being part of the next steps in the Newport-Mesa community. So my job is just to give you a little bit more information and context about who we are and how we plan to, the role that we'll play. So OC Human Relations is a nonprofit organization. You might, some of you may know that we grew out of a county commission on human relations, but we now function in this nonprofit role. We have programs and projects in community that deal with, for example, tracking and reporting hate crime, working to engage resident leaders in improving the conditions of their living situation in their neighborhoods, conflict management and mediation. And we also have a program that addresses school climate called Bridges. And actually the genesis of Bridges came about in the late 80s when a bunch of student leaders performed in front of their peers in blackface. And were not aware of the history of blackface or the implications or the impact of their actions until that became a very public incident. And we were called in at the time to help that community come together and figure out how to move forward. We put together retreats with community stakeholders that actually went well enough that we were invited to come back. We went back to that campus multiple times that year and found that there was a need beyond that campus. So it's been, you know, almost 30 years now of going out and trying to work with communities to figure out how we can all attend safe and respectful schools. As you can imagine, though, that is not work that happens overnight. It has lots of twists and turns and some gray area, so we continue to work in that field day after day, year after year, to try and support schools and communities. Let's see. So I want to also tell you a little bit about, in this particular situation, our role is really to help to facilitate the work of the task force. We don't do things like say, here task force, here's the recommendations you should use, move forward with them. Our goal is to really come in and help listen to the members of the task force, but also help the members of the task force listen back to the community. We are facilitators. We are here to support the learning and listening of this group. We try to use tools that help to balance power in that setting and as we move forward, and engage community. So we are an outside group, but we're not a third neutral party, right? I always say we have an agenda, and our agenda is safe and respectful schools. What that means to you in Newport-Mesa is what the task force will determine. There are many things that many schools and districts do across the country, but you need to be able to find what the things are that apply to your community best and best address what you prioritize. So we're here to support that effort. I'm going to give you just a snapshot of kind of what we're saying that the task force is and isn't. And before I explain these, I just want to say the task force itself can further define what this means. These are broad strokes, and the group could get together and say, we'd like to make changes to that list. But generally speaking, right, this should be a safe and respectful place for input. a guiding body that's, tasked with giving recommendations back to the Board of Trustees around school climate issues. And it should be a group that represents the diversity of this community and multiple dimensions of diversity. Some things that it is not is the task force will provide the recommendations, but the board are the ones that will have the final say on approving or not approving those recommendations. So it's a recommendation. I'll just leave it there. Recommendation, not a decision. But I do want to offer that we hope that when the task force has a draft of recommendations, that we can go back out to community and vet those one more time before they go up to the board. So even if you choose not to participate, this wouldn't be the last opportunity to see what direction the work is going. So not a place and space for a personal agenda, just really we need to represent the whole community. So if there are specific cases that you might be experiencing with a student of your own, there's lots of people in the room that would be happy to help guide you through that. But the task force is not going to be able to take each individual case on, but rather broader issues. And lastly, we all know that there was a high-profile incident that brought us into this room, but that is not the only issue that we hope to address. Very quickly, I'm sure many of you in your private conversations had similar experiences to us, which is, but what about this and what about that? What else can be done? What about other communities that have been trying to have their voices heard and don't feel like that's happening? So this will be a task force that's why we're talking about human relations and school climate issues, not to exclude issues, but to actually create a bigger umbrella for lots of different communities to participate in the process. So the last thing I want to say about how we are approaching what we think should be in the recommendations is kind of, I'm putting them sort of in two buckets. So one is really thinking about how do we engage individuals in education, awareness raising, understanding differences, understanding their peers in community, in school, in class. The other bucket is what considerations need to be made around policy and process in the district, right? We know that this is also a country where we've engaged in free speech. There's a marketplace of ideas, and we would, I think, be foolish to think that we were going to create a community where everyone had identical beliefs. Not only foolish, but boring, right? So we're not looking for outright agreement on everything, but we want to have a place where, one, we offer those educational opportunities, and two, when people are stepping outside of those community values or community standards that you identify, that there are policies and procedures that can back up students, teachers, parents, whomever wants to shed light on those issues. So we'll be looking at least at those two buckets. And tonight is really the first step in making sure that the things that I'm saying are come to us through your voices. So what we're going to do with kind of the bulk of our time is try to elicit as much feedback from you in the room that we can tonight. And instead of doing that kind of one by one, we have a process that our team is going to take you through. And before I do that, I just want everyone who's here from OC Human Relations maybe to give a wave. So these are the folks that if you say, I did not understand the instructions, what's happening right now, these are the people that will be happy to walk you through questions, take any other comments or concerns that you have, but to lead you through kind of how that's going to look, I'm going to invite Julie Vu up here. She's the director of our school and youth programs. Thank you.
So thank you, Allie, for kind of setting up the stage for tonight. And so around the room, you might have already seen that there's a bunch of chart paper around. All the chart paper are numbered. So starting at this corner, we have number 1. In the back corner is 2. On this corner by the entry is 3. And over here is 4. And with the chart paper, we would like our community's feedback on these specific questions or prompts, right? So all the chart paper will correspond with what you're answering. And so in the first one, give us what you think the goals of the task force should be. And then the second one, what do you think about who should be a part of it, what groups, what communities, what individuals? And then going to qualities of the ideal task force member, and then issues and concerns that the task force should consider addressing. And so once again, really reiterating Allie's point earlier that an event brought us here together, but we know there's a lot more work than just this event to kind of push through. And then our last fifth thing that we did not list up here, my colleague Maureen in the back, so Maureen's gonna wave over here, has an option where if all these 4 things are not what you wanna express today, you can go to her and you can write down on a Post-it note what you want us to know as well. And so that's gonna be in the back area. And it looks like we are gonna go to an overflow room, Kirk, is that correct? Or who should I look at? So we're all gonna stay in here? All right, so I'm gonna be allocating about 30 minutes for this activity. Everyone can come up here and grab a marker at this corner. Once we go through everything, we are not gonna do a report back tonight because we still need to take this information, concise it down, but Kirk will give wrap up of what we can expect for the rest of the night. So we're gonna transition into that. We'll put the lights up. So if you're ready, come pick up a marker. Thank you. Awesome. Thank you all. All right. So, one more time. Thank you, the front row. Yes, front row. Awesome. All right. So, I know folks are still writing. Please feel free to continue writing if you need to. However, I just want to clarify a little bit more on the next steps of having your input for these 5 areas and also, 4 areas, and then also the 5th area that is kind of like our, we call parking lot, right? And so we're going to take this information back, and what we'll do is that we'll concise it a little bit, just meaning that if there are a couple of repetition pieces, we might just combine them together. However, we'll do our best to ensure that no one's voice gets left out, right? So if you wrote something that might be similar in nature to someone else's, but you also added a second piece to it that's not the same, we'll make sure to include that. But for the most part, if it's the same, we will put it together. And so with that, we hope that we can finish reporting on that back to the district at least by Friday or early Monday. And I'm going to re-invite Kirk back up here so that Kirk can wrap us up for the night. Thank you.
Let's have a bigger hand than that for Allison and her team. Come on, guys. So thank you all for your participation here tonight, but I really want to single out, thank you to all the kids, all the students that are here tonight. Thank you. Thank you for being involved, and I think it's one of the things we need to do a better job of is getting voice of our students. It's so important, and so I hope that you will come back and be involved with the task force. I hope you will invite some of your friends to come and be involved with the task force, and we really want to hear your voices on the task force. So again, thank you for giving up your time tonight. I know that you have lots of homework and other things you could be doing, but we really appreciate you being here tonight. So right now, I just wanted to move forward and give you the timeline of the 2 different involvements that you can have in this process moving forward. One more thing. You know, I script these things out because I don't like to leave things out. And in my introductions, I forgot to introduce our superintendent, Dr. Navarro, my boss. So But to tell you the truth, he's probably the most humble person in this room, and he would be the least affected by not introducing him. But I wanted to make sure to let you know that he's here and intimately involved in this process in setting this up. So again, the two different ways you can be involved. The Human Relations Task Force will meet for approximately 6 months, and will meet twice a month. Our first meeting will be Wednesday, April 17th. We have the tentative schedule up there. Our first meeting will be Wednesday 17th, back here. This Monday, April 1st, we'll put up that application for the task force and the job description of what will be expected of team members on the district website. Anyone who applies will be on the task force. Again, we just like to have you understand what the expectations are of being on the task force. We ask that you get those applications back to us by April 14th. It'll be much easier for us to plan the next meeting if we have an idea of how many people will be on the task force. If someone missed tonight, they still have the ability to fill out an application and show up on the 14th. Behind me is the schedule here that we'll be taking to the board for approval on the 9th. So this is a tentative schedule right now. Another way besides being on the task force for you to be involved is to attend our community workshops. We'll be holding these once a month, and hopefully you will encourage other parents, students, and community members to attend these workshops. The workshops will come out of the information that we glean tonight that the Orange County Human Relations Task Force will be going over. We've tentatively scheduled one of the workshops at the City of Costa Mesa. That will be the May one, and hopefully one for Newport Beach in July. And this schedule as well will be on the website starting on Monday. So again, thank you for your participation tonight. We hope that you'll continue to be involved in either the task force or the workshops, and that you will invite other people to be involved as well to help us create safe and respectful schools. I will be up here up front in case you have any questions, if your questions didn't get answered. But again, thank you for being here, and hopefully we'll see some of you on April 14th. Thank you very much.